In today's video, I'll be showing you the 6 spending lies that retirees still believe and why those assumptions are costing people tens of thousands of dollars because they're making retirement decisions based on things that sound true but just really aren't. Through working with clients who built their retirement plans around these beliefs, I've discovered that the ones who challenged those assumptions early ended up with more money, lower taxes, and fewer surprises versus the ones who accepted them as truth and got blindsided by things they just didn't see coming. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Ben Brandt. I've been a financial advisor for almost 20 years, and I want to help make your retirement even better. All right, lie number 1, you're going to spend less money in retirement. This is probably the most repeated piece of conventional wisdom in retirement planning, and for super savers, it's just completely wrong. And here's the truth. Granted, for the 95% of people living mostly on Social Security, your spending probably does go down. But for super savers, and I define them as having saved over $1 million, you've afforded yourself something different, right? You've got the shiniest of your golden years ahead of you, right? Often called the go-go years. When you're healthy and you're active and you've got the vitality to actually do the bucket list trips and spend time with grandkids and tackle all those hobbies. And frankly, that stuff costs money, and it should. That's what the money's for. The problem is that super savers are listening to generalist advice, right? Advice designed for the 95%. And I see this happen again and again. In fact, I had a recent example where a client reached out to work on her retiree blueprint, which is our retirement process. And she told me that the advisor at her company's retirement plan said you should spend from your brokerage account first and defer your IRA and 401k as long as possible to keep those taxes low. And that's probably solid advice if you've saved $50,000 or $100,000, right? The average person in those employer-sponsored plans probably has less than a couple $100,000. For them, that's pretty reasonable advice. But it's terrible advice for the super saver, right? We've looked at dozens of case studies on this channel where you need to pull income from your IRA forward, right? Reach into the future, pull those cash flows into the present. Because if you don't, you're going to get hammered by massive RMDs later that are going to spike your taxes and they might trigger additional Medicare charges. So here's the thing. She was getting good advice generally, but she was getting really terrible advice specifically. Because she's a super saver, she needs to seek out advice for super savers, not advice designed for everybody else. Whether that's advice about your spending order from your investments or the idea that your spending is going to go down in retirement, right? Honestly, that's why they call it personal finance and not everybody finance. Generalist financial advice is everybody finance, and honestly, super savers need something different. Line number 2, the 4% rule will keep me safe. The 4% rule has really been the gold standard of retirement planning since the 1990s. Based on research by Bill Bangan, the idea is pretty simple. Withdraw 4% of your portfolio in year number 1 and adjust for inflation every year after that, and your money should last for 30 years roughly. But here's the problem. The 4% rule isn't the average, it's the floor. It's built on the absolute worst 30-year stretches in market history. It's designed to survive the Great Depression or stagflation of the 1960s, right? The worst sequences of returns that anybody's ever seen. In fact, Michael Kitces at the Nerd's Eye View blog has a great chart on this. Across all rolling 30-year periods in history, the safe withdrawal rate has ranged from 4% all the way up to 10%, with a median close to about 6.5%. The 4% rule just picks the worst year in that entire range and says, you should plan for that. Well, unless you've got the worst luck in history, you're probably going to experience something a little bit different in your retirement. And here's the real irony. Because it's built on a worst case scenario, it can actually fail in two opposite directions. It can be too aggressive if markets create or worse than the worst 30-year periods included in that research. And if that happens early on in retirement, you could still run out of money. Alternatively, if markets are good or even if they're average, it can be way too conservative, right? Causing you to massively underspend and just leave behind a pile of money that you never got to enjoy, right? Both of those are retirement failures, and the 4% rule could really lead to either one. As John Reckenthaler from Morningstar puts it, when people hear the phrase safe withdrawal rate, they assume that it's a guarantee. And it's really not. It's a static rule of thumb. It doesn't respond to market changes or Social Security timing or just an emergency in your family that caused you to spend more money that year, right? How spending actually happens in real life. It treats every retiree exactly the same regardless of their goals, or their lifestyle, or their portfolio style, right? Their risk tolerance. I think the better approach is guardrails. That's what we talk about on our channel. Spend more when the markets are good, which is honestly most of the time, right? The markets are positive 70 to 75% of the time. Alternatively, have a pre-committed plan to temporarily reduce your income when markets get rough. That's going to happen at some point. Not dramatically, maybe 10% or somewhere in that range, but enough to protect your portfolio without derailing your lifestyle. Morningstar's own research shows us that flexible strategies can safely support withdrawal rates of 4.5% to 5%. On a $1.5 million portfolio, that difference between 4% and 5% is $15,000 a year, every single year. Well, that's a pretty nice vacation or two, depending on where you want to go. Now, before we dive into lie number 3, if you're not already subscribed to our weekly newsletter, This Week in Retirement, I'd love for you to join us. We got a link in the description. That's where I find the best retirement content on the internet that week and I deliver it right to your email inbox, hopefully saving you a whole bunch of time. Now, lie number 3 is a conservative portfolio is the safe choice. When markets get rocky, right, the natural instinct is to de-risk. I want to move out of stocks. I want to move more into bonds and cash. I want to reduce my overall exposure, right? It feels like the safe thing to do. It feels like the prudent thing to do. But really, it's actually one of the most dangerous things you can do long-term for your retirement plan. And here's why. When you load up on bonds and cash in order to avoid short-term volatility, you're not fully eliminating all risk. You're just trading one risk for another, right? We're trading market volatility for something I feel is more dangerous and more nefarious over the long term, and that's the loss of your permanent purchasing power. So just to help paint the picture about inflation, remember Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th movie, right? You could do anything you could think of to Jason. You could light him on fire. You could drop a piano on his head, right? No matter what you did to Jason, he just kept coming. That's inflation in retirement. You can't kill it. You can only outrun it. And bonds, especially in the long term, you just can't run fast enough, right? We need the growth that only a healthy allocation to stocks can provide us in order to survive. So hopefully that's a colorful metaphor to help you understand the risks of not growing enough. And to further drive home the point, I'll show you the math. At just 4% annual inflation, and granted, we've certainly seen higher than that recently, at 4%, prices double every 18 years. That means if you retire at 60, well, by the time you're 78, you're going to need twice the income to buy the same amount of stuff, right? The same groceries, the same gas, the same prescriptions, what have you. If you live until your 90s, well, you might need 3 times the income, right? Double and then another double, right? The bond-heavy portfolio is going to feel safe emotionally, temporarily, right? But mathematically, it's pretty fragile. It fails to keep up with inflation, and that eats away at our purchasing power every single year. Conservative strategies often optimize for short-term comfort while destroying long-term security. So please don't confuse what feels safe with what is actually safe. Line number 4, Social Security is going to run out of money, and I got to claim it as soon as I possibly can. I want to be really direct with you here because this lie has caused more lasting financial damage than any retirement planning mistake that I see. Granted, Social Security does have funding challenges. We've all seen the headlines. It's no secret. And they're not wrong. The projections do show a potential shortfall coming in a decade or probably less. But here's what those headlines never fully explain. Social Security can't run out of money. It's funded by a dedicated payroll tax. As long as Americans are working and paying money into the system, money is coming in and money is going out. What the projections actually show is a potential shortfall, meaning the money collected won't fully cover projected payments, right? The most realistic worst case scenario is somewhere between a 15 and a 25% reduction in benefits, depending on what numbers you look at when you look at them and what the state of the economy is at the time. That is not the same thing as your benefits are going to zero. And beyond that, Congress has never allowed Social Security benefits to be cut, right? There's just too many voters depending on it. The government has tools, including a number of things, adjusting benefits, adjusting payroll taxes, and they tend to find creative ways to fill the gaps when they need to. And honestly, they've never been shy to simply print more money. So why does this matter so much for your spending? Well, because claiming Social Security at 62 versus waiting until 70 is not a tiny difference, right? If you claim your benefits at 62, you're going to permanently lock yourself into a benefit that's 43% smaller than if you would have waited longer until, let's say, age 70, for example. That's a decision that affects every single paycheck for the rest of your life and potentially even for your surviving spouse's life. For every year that you delay your benefits past full retirement age, you get a guaranteed 8% increase in your benefit. Not based on market performance, it's just built directly into your benefits. So, try finding a guaranteed 8% return anywhere else in the financial world, especially in the short-term horizon when we're talking about investing. If you sold a product like that, you'd have people lined up around the block, but it's built directly into your benefits, and a lot of people don't fully take advantage of that. When retirees claim early based on fear that Social Security is going to go away, and it's not, they lock in that permanently smaller benefit and they permanently then increase the amount that they've got to withdraw from their portfolio forever. So please don't let a misunderstood headline shrink your retirement income forever. Moving on to line number 5, I need to set aside hundreds of thousands of dollars for long-term care. Thus, I can't spend as much out of my portfolio. And I call this one the ultimate spending lie because it's really a meta lie. It's the fear that lies underneath all other fears. And it really prevents retirees from ever feeling permission to spend from their portfolio in some cases. And the thinking goes something like this. Well, what if I need the nursing home someday and it might cost $10,000 a month and it could last for a few years, so I need to set aside $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 just in case. And instead of using that portfolio as the spending engine of their retirement income like it's supposed to be used, right, retirees treat that portfolio as one giant emergency fund. We've got a name for this. We call it doom stacking. And there's always a reason to spend less because of unknown factors. And those unknown factors all stack up, and we call that doom stacking. But let's look at what the data really says. So according to the American Association of Long-Term Care Insurance, 53% of older adults will never use paid long-term care at all. Never. More than half will never use it. Now, of those who do need it, about 20% will need it for less than a year, and only about 7% of those will need paid long-term care for longer than 5 years. So let me translate that. Only about 7% of retirees will need extended paid multi-year long-term care. Now, that's the scenario you're holding $400,000 hostage out of your portfolio for, and your monthly retirement spending is going to suffer as a result. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore this risk entirely, right? That would be fully irresponsible. But what I am saying is there's smarter ways, I think, to manage that risk versus mentally earmarking a big chunk of your portfolio and then living smaller for the rest of your retirement. I don't think that's a good idea. So here's the reframe that changes the thinking for clients that I work with. Consider your home equity as your long-term care backstop. Now, many retirees are sitting on significant home equity, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you take that and you earmark it, right, say that's my home equity is my contingency plan for long-term care, well, suddenly now your portfolio doesn't have to do two jobs at once. It doesn't have to be both your spending engine and your long-term care insurance policy, right? All your portfolio has to do then is generate the income that you need for your retirement to actually live. Now, you can pair that with an actual insurance policy if that fits your situation, or maybe some combination of all of the above. But the point is this. When you stop treating your entire portfolio as one giant what-if fund and stop doom stacking, well, then you can give yourself real permission to spend. Which leads us to line number 6. My spending needs are going to stay roughly the same every year. Now, this feels logical, right? You pick a number, let's say that's $10,000 a month, and you build an entire plan around withdrawing that same inflation-adjusted $10,000 a month every year for 30 years. Well, the problem is that real retirement cash flow really doesn't work that way. It's really lumpy, right? It's anything but linear. And just think about the first decade of a typical married couple's retirement, right? You might have a phased retirement for spouse A and then spouse B, Medicare for spouse A and spouse B. Then the house is paid off somewhere in there, right? Social Security starts times 2. Maybe the last of the kids move out. We call that getting the freeloaders offloaded. So just with that off the top of my head, that's potentially 5 to 10 separate cash flow events in the first decade of retirement alone, each shifting your income either up or down. Now, if you're single, maybe you cut that number in half, but it's still very different from the flat line that we talk about with most retirement calculators, right? The 4% rule, as we mentioned earlier, and most calculators that you'd find online, they kind of treat your spending as just one flat line. Sure, sort of 4% adjust for inflation, job done. That sounds good on a spreadsheet, but life's not a spreadsheet, right? As much as I love spreadsheets, there's really no soul to that plan. There's no flexibility. So in my view, the retirees who succeed aren't the ones with the most conservative plans. They're the ones with the most flexible plans. And a flexible plan gives you more than one chance to be right. Now, if you want to build a plan that's designed around how retirement actually works, not how we wish it worked, I'd love to walk you through the Retiree Blueprint. It's a framework that my clients use to coordinate all these moving pieces together, income and taxes and Social Security and Medicare and spending and all the contingencies that go along with that, right? We blend that all into one plan that gives you, I think, some real confidence. So the link is in the description. Check it out. Let's build something that really works in real life. All right. Once again, my name is Ben Brandt. I hope this video has helped to make your retirement even better. If it did, go ahead and hit the like button so the algorithm knows I did my job, and I'll see you on the next one.